The grand halls of the Zelthar Palace glowed with light from 1,000 crystals. Tall alien figures stood in silence, their blue skin shining in the glow as the queen walked down the long aisle. Queen Sarathia, ruler of the Dominion, moved with pride and power, but that day her eyes were uncertain. Today she would marry a human. Beside her walked Captain Daniel Hayes of Earth, a quiet man dressed in simple white. His hair was short, his face calm, his expression unreadable. The people whispered in the crowd. To them, he looked too ordinary, too gentle to be the husband of their strong queen. But this marriage was not for love. It was for peace. After 10 long years of war between humans and Zelthar, both sides had finally agreed to end the fighting. Their leaders had chosen marriage as a symbol of unity. Sarathia had accepted the deal with pride, believing she could guide peace her own way. Yet when she first met Daniel, she was puzzled by him. He was polite, quiet, and always respectful. He never raised his voice, never argued, and never showed off his strength. When alien generals tried to test him with sharp words, he only smiled and replied calmly. Many took it as weakness. They whispered behind his back, saying, "The queen married a soft man." Daniel did not mind. He spent his days visiting the cities that had been damaged during the war. He helped rebuild homes with his own hands, worked beside engineers, and spoke kindly to children. The aliens watched him with confusion. Why would a man of peace do the work of laborers? Yet slowly some began to like him. He listened when others did not. He fixed what others ignored. Queen Sarathia often watched him from her palace window. She could not understand him. She had been raised to lead armies, to give orders, to command fear. But Daniel led with patience. When she asked him once, "Why do you not act like a ruler?" he smiled softly and said, "Because peace does not need rulers, it needs caretakers." Her heart was touched by his words, but she still found him mysterious. He never spoke of his past, never told stories of Earth. He wore a simple ring and kept a small medal hidden in his pocket. But no one knew what it meant. Days turned into months, and peace began to grow between their people. Yet in the shadows of the Dominion, anger remained. Some generals hated that their queen had joined with a human. One of them was General Varkesh, a tall warrior with scales of black and silver. He believed the marriage was a disgrace. "A human cannot lead us," he whispered to his soldiers. "The queen has been blinded by peace." He began to gather followers, secret soldiers who wanted war again. They planned to strike the palace and remove both the queen and her human husband. One night, the queen and Daniel attended a council meeting. The topic was simple: how to rebuild trade routes destroyed in the war. Daniel listened quietly as alien officers spoke with loud pride. When one of them insulted him, saying, "You know nothing of our ways, human," Daniel only bowed slightly and said, "Then teach me, and I will learn." The queen noticed the slight laughter in the room. She felt anger burn in her chest, but Daniel's calmness stopped her from speaking. When the meeting ended, she walked beside him through the long marble halls and asked, "Do you not care what they say about you?" Daniel looked at her, his brown eyes warm. "I care," he said softly. "But peace is not built by pride. Let them speak. One day they will see who I am." Before she could reply, the palace lights flickered. A low sound echoed from outside. Explosions. The floor shook under their feet. Alarms rang through the corridors. Guards shouted. Sarathia turned to the nearest soldier. "Report." The soldier's face turned pale. "My queen, General Varkesh has betrayed us. His army is inside the city." Sarathia's heart tightened. She looked at Daniel. For the first time since their marriage, she saw something in his eyes. Cold focus. "Go to the safe chamber," he said quickly. "I'll lead the evacuation." "No," she answered firmly. "I will not run from my own palace." The guards rushed around them. Energy blasts echoed from the outer walls. The queen's soldiers fought hard, but the rebels were many. Smoke filled the air as parts of the palace began to burn. Daniel moved fast. He helped the wounded, organized the guards, and gave clear orders that surprised everyone. "Seal the east gate. Move the civilians to the lower tunnels. Set the drone turrets along the balcony line." His voice carried authority that made even veteran soldiers obey. Sarathia watched him in disbelief. "How do you know our defense systems?" she asked. He didn't answer at first. He simply took a fallen guard's plasma spear and activated it, the blue energy glowing in his hand. "I studied them," he said finally. Just in case, the guards stared. The calm, polite human they had mocked now stood tall, his movements sharp and sure. When the rebels burst into the courtyard, Daniel stepped forward. He moved like lightning, striking with precision. His every motion was efficient, no wasted effort, no hesitation. He wasn't wild. He was controlled, trained, deadly. The Queen watched as her soldiers began to follow his lead. Under his direction, they pushed back the enemy line. He used human tactics, flanking, cover fire, silent signals that her army had never practiced. Within minutes, they regained ground. A young alien soldier ran to her side. "My queen," he said breathlessly. "The human fights like 10 men. Sarathia's eyes were wide. She could hardly believe it. She had thought she married a gentle soul, but what she saw now was something else, an experienced warrior, calm in the middle of chaos. When a blast tore through the balcony, Daniel grabbed the Queen and pulled her down just before the roof exploded above them. Dust filled the air. He helped her stand, his face serious. "We can't hold the palace for long," he said. "You need to leave now." "I will not," she shouted. "This is my home." He looked into her eyes, and for a moment she saw the same fire she carried inside. "Then I'll fight beside you," he said simply. Together they moved through the burning halls, rallying the remaining guards. Daniel directed them to fall back to the throne room, where he could use the layout for defense. The palace trembled as explosions drew closer. Through the smoke, Daniel could hear the rebel soldiers shouting Varkesh's name. The throne room doors opened, and Queen Sarathia's banner fell to the ground. Varkesh's forces stormed in, his tall figure leading them. He laughed when he saw Daniel standing beside the Queen. "This is your protector?" he sneered. "A weak human?" Daniel said nothing. He stepped forward and held the spear firmly. The rebels charged. What followed was a blur of motion, Daniel moving faster than any human they had ever seen. He disarmed the first attacker, used the spear to knock down 2 more, and rolled behind a fallen pillar to block incoming fire. Every move was precise, every strike controlled. The Queen used her energy staff to protect his flank. Together they fought as one. She felt his rhythm, his awareness, as if he could predict every attack. For the first time she understood that his calm nature wasn't weakness, it was strength. True strength. After minutes of fierce fighting, the remaining rebels retreated. Daniel's armor was scorched, his face covered in ash, but his eyes were steady. The surviving guards looked at him with awe. The Queen walked toward him slowly, her heart beating fast. "You said you were no soldier," she whispered. Daniel lowered the spear and sighed. "I was once, a long time ago. But I chose peace because I was tired of death." Sarathia looked around at the wrecked hall, the smoke, the broken walls, the injured guards, and then at him. "And yet you fought again," he nodded. "Because peace must be protected." For a moment, silence filled the ruined throne room. The Queen stared at her husband, the man she once thought was small and simple. Now she saw the truth. Beneath his calm voice and gentle heart was a warrior stronger than anyone in her army. Outside, the night sky burned red. The rebellion was not over, but the palace still stood. Daniel looked to the doors and said, "They'll come again. I need to prepare the defenses." The Queen stepped beside him. "You will not stand alone," she said. He looked at her and smiled slightly. "Then we fight together." As the alarms continued to echo through the city, the Queen felt something she had not felt in years. Not fear, not pride, but faith. The humble human she had married for peace had become her shield. And as the fires of war rose once more, she knew the enemy would soon learn the same truth she had discovered. The quiet man from Earth was far from ordinary. The night of rebellion had begun, and the galaxy was about to witness what a human could truly do. Smoke rose above the capital as the palace walls shook again. Dawn light touched the sky, but the fire from the rebellion still burned red and gold. The once proud halls of the Zelthar Palace were now filled with the smell of ash and the cries of wounded soldiers. Yet in the center of the chaos stood Daniel Hayes, calm, focused, and unbroken. Queen Sarathia watched him as he moved among the guards, giving quiet orders that made perfect sense. He ordered them to fortify the western walls, set up shield barriers, and guide the civilians to the tunnels. Even her commanders, who once mocked him, now obeyed without question. His voice was firm but never harsh. His calmness gave everyone courage. Sarathia approached him, her robes torn, her face marked with soot. "They will come again," she said. "Varkesh will not stop until we are both dead." Daniel looked up at the burning sky. Then we make sure he doesn't reach you, he said. He wants chaos. We give him order. He wants fear. We give him hope. The Queen studied his face. He spoke like a soldier who had seen this before. He carried the calm of someone who had already faced death and learned not to fear it. Who were you before all this, Daniel Hayes? She asked softly. He hesitated. A captain. A man who lost too many friends in war. I thought I could leave it all behind. He turned to her and gave a faint smile. But war always finds those who still have something worth protecting. Her heart tightened at his words. She finally understood why he had chosen peace. Not because he was weak, but because he had seen too much pain. Yet when danger came, he did not run from it. That was true strength. The palace trembled again as explosions sounded from the outer gates. Daniel motioned to his guards. Positions. Hold the line until my signal. Outside, the rebel army advanced through the capital streets. Varkesh led them himself, his armor black and gleaming under the rising sun. His soldiers shouted his name as they marched, carrying banners that once belonged to the Queen. She has fallen to the human. Varkesh roared. Take back our honor. Daniel and Sarathia watched from the high balcony. They are too many, one guard said. We cannot win. Daniel turned to him and said calmly, Then we'll make them believe they cannot win either. He ran his hands across the control panel on the balcony wall. The Queen watched as he activated defense drones, reprogramming them faster than any alien engineer could. The drones lifted into the air and formed a shining circle around the palace. How do you know our systems? She asked again. Daniel glanced at her. I studied your war tech when the peace treaty was signed. I wanted to understand how your people fought, so I could make sure I never had to fight you again. The Queen felt her chest tighten. And now you use that knowledge to save us, he nodded. That's what humans do. We learn, we adapt, and when the time comes, and we protect. The rebels began their assault. Plasma bolts flew across the courtyard, striking the shields Daniel had positioned. The drones answered back with stunning blasts of energy, forcing the attackers to scatter. From above, the palace looked like a fortress reborn, light against darkness. As the battle raged, Daniel moved through the defenses like a commander who knew every inch of the field. He was everywhere, helping wounded soldiers, resetting shields, calling out directions. Cover the east side! Move those cannons! Keep the civilians moving. His presence made everyone stronger. Queen Sarathia joined the fight beside him, her staff glowing bright with royal energy. Her people saw her standing beside the human and fought harder. Together they became a symbol, unity in battle. Hours passed. The rebels pushed harder. The walls began to crack under constant attack. Then suddenly the ground shook with a massive explosion. Varkesh's forces had breached the south gate. They're inside, a guard shouted. Daniel grabbed his weapon and ran toward the gate. Stay with the civilians, he ordered, but the Queen followed anyway. I will not hide while my people fight, she said fiercely. They reached the south hall just as rebels poured in. The sight was chaos. Burning walls, broken glass, soldiers fighting hand to hand. Daniel charged ahead. He fought like he had in the stories. Swift, precise, unstoppable. Every move was made to protect others. He shielded a wounded guard, threw back a plasma grenade before it exploded, and pulled the Queen to safety when the ceiling collapsed behind them. Varkesh appeared through the smoke, his tall frame like a shadow of iron. His deep voice thundered, You have no place here, human. You are a thief of our throne. Daniel faced him calmly. I never wanted your throne, he said. Only peace, Varkesh laughed darkly. Then die for it. He lunged forward with a massive energy blade. Daniel blocked with his spear, sparks flying as the two clashed. Their fight shook the hall. Each blow was powerful, echoing against stone and fire. The Queen watched, her heart racing. She wanted to help, but the two warriors moved too fast. Varkesh was strong, but Daniel was faster. He used every bit of training, every lesson from his years of war. He dodged, countered, and turned Varkesh's strength against him. Yet the alien general was massive and relentless. With one strike, Varkesh knocked Daniel across the hall. Daniel hit the ground hard, his weapon sliding away. Pain shot through his arm, but he didn't stop. He got back up slowly, breathing deeply. His calm never broke. Varkesh charged again. This time, Daniel waited until the last second, then sidestepped and activated a trap he had placed earlier, a gravity mine from the palace defense system. The device exploded in a wave of light, pulling Varkesh down with crushing force. The alien general fell to one knee, roaring in anger. Daniel retrieved his weapon and held it steady. "It's over," he said firmly. But Varkesh laughed through the pain. "You won't kill me, human. You're too soft." Daniel stepped closer, his eyes sharp. "You're right. I won't kill you. Because this isn't about revenge. It's about ending hate." He turned to the queen. "Your Majesty, take him alive. Let your people see that mercy is stronger than fear." Sarathia understood. She walked forward and raised her staff. "General Varkesh," she said, her voice steady, "you are under arrest for treason against the Dominion." The rebels hesitated. Seeing their leader fall broke their spirit. Many dropped their weapons and knelt. The queen's guards moved in to secure the hall. The battle was over. Daniel leaned against a pillar, catching his breath. His uniform was torn, his arm bleeding slightly, but he smiled faintly when he saw the queen standing tall before her people. She turned to him and said softly, "You could have killed him. Why didn't you?" He looked at her with tired eyes. "Because peace doesn't survive on blood. It survives on choice." For a long moment she said nothing. Then she placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've taught me more about strength than any war ever could." Later that night the fires were put out. The rebels surrendered or fled. The capital slowly returned to calm. From the highest tower, Queen Sarathia stood beside Daniel, looking down at her city. The stars shone bright again, free from smoke. Her people now spoke of Daniel Hayes not as the quiet human, but as the guardian of the realm. Soldiers saluted him. Children called his name, and the council bowed in respect. But Daniel never claimed any glory. When the queen thanked him before the court, he only said, "Peace belongs to everyone. I just helped protect it." After the ceremony, when they were alone in the palace garden, Sarathia turned to him. "You once said you were tired of war," she said. "Will you stay now that peace has returned?" He smiled. "If you'll have me, yes. Maybe I can finally live quietly again." She laughed softly. "I no longer believe you can ever be quiet, Daniel Hayes. Not after what my people saw today." He looked at her kindly. "Then let them see a quiet man who will always stand up when needed." The queen's expression softened. "Then you are not just my husband. You are the bridge between our worlds," he nodded. "And you are the reason they can finally walk across it." The wind moved gently through the garden trees. The stars reflected in her silver eyes as she whispered, "You are not what I expected, Daniel. You are more." He took her hand gently. "Neither are you, Sarathia. You're better." Above them, the first light of morning spread over the palace, and no longer red from fire, but gold with promise. The war was over. The rebellion was crushed. And the people of two worlds, once enemies, now shared the same dawn. From that day on, the story spread across the galaxy. Of a humble human who married a queen, and when the empire fell into flames, showed them what true courage looked like. He did not conquer planets. He conquered hate, and so the legend of Daniel Hayes, the guardian of two worlds, was born. The man who fought not to destroy but to protect. And the queen who learned that true power was not in the sword, but in the heart that knew when to use it.